what I've got here is a 2006 Honda Odyssey ignition, and the issue the customer brought is that the key no longer turns. And this is a very frequent problem for these Honda split wafer ignitions. You'll notice the split wafer is the one that has 2 tracks on the top and the bottom of the key, and both of those tracks, or all of those tracks, interact with the key at some point, or the ignition at one point or another. The reason that these are so prone to failure, I have a pile of them here, but Honda uses there we go, uses split wafer. Looks like this. I don't know if that's visible. Let's take a look here. The split wafer looks like this, and you'll notice, let me grab my tweezers, this little barb right there, that barb is the part that interacts with the key, and after 20 years you'd expect that barb to eventually fail, which is why we do a lot of Honda ignitions. We see probably, I want to say, at least 95% of the ignitions that we work on are these Honda split wafer ignitions. I haven't done a different vehicle in a very long time. The rest are pretty much all GM for other reasons. You'll notice first by looking at this thing, this should be pretty identifiable to you. You have your antenna there, your computer module there. That's your, I believe that's the immobilizer, unless I'm completely mistaken. But the actual cylinder is built into here, and it does pull out, but we've got to disassemble it to get to that first. You'll notice that all of these are the same, so if you learn to work on one, you kind of learn to work on all of them. This is an 06 Odyssey, this is an 09 Civic that we just did. Still a little bit stiff, but there we go. It'll work itself in a little bit. But you'll notice, even though this port's been moved, they're virtually identical, and the way you take them apart is roughly the same. So if you can learn to do one, you can learn to do all of them. In order to do this, we're going to need a couple of different parts here. So first thing we're going to need is a paper that we're going to use for pinning up the ignitions. We have this one right here that I put together. Okay, let's see here. Where was I? Oh yeah, this paper right here. This is just something I put together so that, I don't know which way the video is going to be oriented. This might be upside down now. But this will kind of go through how we'll pin it up, and you'll see that more in depth later. I did print this, or I did make this, and some of these notes I still need to edit a little bit. But that being said, I'm going to set this off to the side. We'll come back to that in a little bit. Of course, you're going to want your standard. You want a number 2 Phillips. I prefer one with a bigger handle, but this is just what's sitting over here. I have no idea what's in that pile. This is a piece I threw together and printed off on a 3D printer. This is going to help us put the ignition back together, because you'll see that the split wafers can be a little bit unwieldy unless you have something to hold all the wafers into place. Set that off to the side for now. The STL file, I think I've got a link to Thingiverse. I'll put in the description for that, so that way you can find it. It helps out a lot. I actually stole the design from a YouTube video that a guy did on just kind of helping to put together an ignition. He made his out of vinyl tubing. I figured I'd make a printable version of it, just for kicks and giggles. Most recently, I got this. This came in the mail actually just yesterday, and then of course, surprise, surprise, actually, today I have all of my, this kit came in. This one is not great. The pliers suck. I'll say that outright. It is literally just a barb that was welded on there. I went in and I ground down the tip to make it a little easier to navigate. But this, however, on the other hand, this is a screw extractor, and we're going to use this for roll pins. It also loosens right there to add tension to open it up a little bit more. You can buy these on eBay direct from China. Do that instead of buying it from UHS, because you will pay double the price for the same exact Chinese product that they're importing. And then this little bit right here will sit so that we can use the full force of this plate to pull the roll pin out. Absolutely phenomenal tool. I love it, and I've already got to use it once. So this thing is phenomenal. It costs like 25 bucks. I'll see if I can throw a link down there. I don't know how long that link will last. And of course, the number one thing you're going to need, Honda split wafer ignition. If you are a locksmith, you need to have this kit specifically. 99% of what we do as far as ignitions are concerned is going to be Hondas. So make sure you get this kit. This one's by ASP. I try to make sure that we're ordering parts that are good and reputable, because these things are already really crap, and if you buy crap parts, it will probably break again, and you will have to work on that yourself. So we'll set that aside for now because we don't need that quite yet. All right. Well, that all being said, oh, one other thing. Of course, it's good to have a hammer. Hammer is going to help us with resetting roll pins, and then we have our friend Big Nail, which is in a drawer labeled Big Nail. I ground this one down so that the tip acts more like a nail set. Could you use a nail set? Well, of course you could, but that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Oh, and a pair of pinning tweezers is always nice to have as well. And of course a pen, so that way you can write down what needs to be done. So we're gonna get rolling here. First things first, we need to get this ignition apart before we can actually see what's wrong and fix it. So first thing we're gonna do, of course, take the key that's not working out, set that aside. It looks like they already removed 2 of these screws. There's gonna be a screw here and a screw here. You'll take this screw off first, this one right here, because we're gonna take this front cover off, and this screw right here. So let's go ahead and do that. Just checking the recording, make sure it's still going before I actually get into things. And the nice part, if you have a pinning mat that's got room for multiple cylinders, you've already got a decent organizer for these things. So we're gonna take this screw right here, that's on this first piece, we'll pull that off, set that to the side. Take this screw, I'm gonna set it in the A divot for a plug right there, and set this off to the side. It's easy to see which one goes on top and which one goes underneath, so I'm not too worried about messing up these parts. We'll set that over there first so that we kind of know the general order of things. The best thing you can do for yourself, especially in something as crazy as an ignition teardown, no matter if you've done it 50, 60 times, is just make sure you've got a workspace that's organized and has everything you need setting out ready to go. There we go. I'd go grab one out of the truck. We'll take this, put it in the B pocket, take this off, and we actually don't need to set this to the side. This can stay on this ignition just fine. And here we come to a roll pin. If you'll notice, I'll grab a little poke tool, right there we have a roll pin. That roll pin is holding this in place. So obviously what we got to do is we got to get it out. And then comes in my new favorite toy. Previous to this, what I did was we would drill that roll pin out and then replace it with a new roll pin. Now I don't have to worry about that. This piece right here, you'll see it's got a flat edge on it. That allows it to sit right there. This is definitely something that would help if I had 15 more hands. The only thing I've noticed about this is the screw set doesn't really go far enough down. I wish it went a little further, or they just moved this a little bit further down, but you can pull that out as far as you want and then tighten it back up. I hope that works. I hope that works. All right, we're gonna set that there. I'm gonna take this, we're gonna get into the center of our roll pin there, and this one in particular is a clockwise turn to tighten it in, unlike your standard screw extractor. I'm still figuring out the exact amount of force I need to get this thing in. Always err with new stuff on the side of fragility, especially when you're dealing with Chinesium stuff. This did come with a couple extra screw extractors, so that could be something that's helpful. As I said, I've already used this 3 times, so you can see here it's already starting to, the one I've got is kind of bent already. But we're going to tighten this in. Get her snugged up. There we go. All right. Then what we'll do is this piece actually, you'll notice the knurling here. This piece will actually loosen. We'll see we're getting a gap right there. And that's pulling. You see, hear that snap? That was this pulling forward. That means we got a roll pin out. You can unscrew that from there. And we're going to set that roll pin right there in the C pocket so that we know which one this came from. There's going to be a longer roll pin that comes a little later in the assembly, so don't accidentally put this one on the ignition itself. Now we can remove the ignition from the housing. Sometimes they'll bring you an ignition that's already removed from the housing. In that case, that helps out an awful lot. Now, there's new information that we have. Honda ignitions actually come with the code on them already built in. Let me see, to get up towards the camera, make sure I'm getting this right here. You'll see right there, there's some writing, and I'll have to flip it around. But the last couple of digits on that writing is actually our key code. So I'll get you the code series here in a moment. We'll pop over to the machine. But it's K926 as the last 4 digits on there. It's going to start with a letter, and then it's going to go number, and that's how you know what your key code is. It'll fall within a code series, which you'll notice. Let me write down on this paper right here. I'm going to write it down on the top. I'll have a spot for it. I'm going to revise this paper because this is only the 3rd time I'm using it. K926. K926. All right. So set this back. We're going to need this again in just a moment, so I'm going to close it and set it aside, but we're going to be ready to go with that one. I'm going to set this key off to the side as well. Keep our workspace clear. We shouldn't need another screwdriver for a little bit, so we'll set that. And we'll be needing this pen. We'll be needing this ignition. So let's pop over the key machine real quick and pop a code in. Here we have a 3D Elite Pro. This thing is hooked up to the internet, of course. Let's see here. So we need automotive keys. We're going to go to automotive key. You can use whatever key machine you need. You could use codes online. All of this would work out just fine. But we're going to use this just because it's easy and at my disposal. Use whatever's convenient for you. We're going to go Honda, and then we're going to go Odyssey. We can type in Odyssey, I guess. There we go. And then we are going to go with 2006. Right there. All right. Now it's going to give us some options here. Here's a couple of code series. It doesn't matter which one you hit because we're not actually programming anything or cloning anything. Do you have a key code for this key? Why, yes, we do. All right. Now you'll see that letter needs to be within the parameters of H and N. So H, I, J, K, L, M, and then N. If it's anything out before H or after N, it's not going to be part of the code series. So that's how we know what we've got right. So our code on the paper was K926. I'm going to go K, type in K926. I apologize for the shakiness of this. We're going to go code to cuts. It's going to load our data. Perfect. That's our key. Now let's double check because this ignition could have been replaced at one point, although I doubt it with the code on there. Everything looks like factory parts, but we're just going to compare the key. We're going to eliminate our margin for error, and that does look right. Now, could you just eyeball this? Absolutely. But why would you do that when you can make your life easier? All right. So we're going to take this. Now, you'll notice on this paper a couple of different information here. The number 1 spot in our ignition is going to be cut 0. So I just don't put anything in there. I believe the left side is populated, I think left side's not populated. We'll see it when we pop it open. Right side is. If you want, you could just leave both of those empty or replace the right side with whatever's currently in there. It should have writing on it. But our real first cut begins with cut number 2, or spot number 2 in the ignition, otherwise known as cut number 1. You might think, oh, there's 5 spots in the ignition. That means there's 6 spots in the ignition. There's 6 cuts. That doesn't work. Why did they do it that way? Nobody can tell me. So we're going to go for cut 1 here. Cut number 1. Up here is 3, 2. So we'll go 3, 2. This paper is a little bit different than how most software will go. But the way I have it set up is so I can look at this and go 1 to 1 on there, or I can go look at the top of the ignition, like with the ignition sitting like this image of the key is sitting. And I can just pin it up straight away, and makes my life a little bit easier. Hopefully it makes yours a little bit easier. If you've got to make a different paper or just use a whiteboard, hey, you're more than welcome to. Cut 2, or in spot 3 there, the middle of it is going to be 3, 4, 3, 4, and then 1, 1, 1, 1, and then 3, 1. Perfect. All right. And then, so you'll notice we still have a spot open here, but that's all right. We don't need to deal with that just yet. We don't get that from the code machine. We're going to pull that from whatever the full wafer is inside of here. So I'm going to get this chuck back up and we'll keep going. All right. Set that pin off to the side here. Now we're going to pull this apart. Our roll pin, grab this nail I'm going to poke with, is right there. Now, if you don't have a functioning key, again, what we would do before is we would take this piece off here, pop this part off, and then we would put a nail, drill a hole right through here, just through the top there, so that the top of that was exposed, and then we would take our friend big nail here, sit it through that hole, and then tap the roll pin out, because you can't get at the back side of that roll pin unless the key is turned. And with the split wafer being broken, you're not going to get that no matter what you try and do. You could try and set it, you could try to leashy it, but it is broken. You're not going to get it. You might be able to, but don't be a smart aleck. Nobody likes that. All right, so let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and grab this pliers out of this kit, just in case. Now I'm starting to understand why Jason constantly has to start and stop his vehicles, or his videos. And I set the key down, I set it down off to the side. Remember this thing I said about making sure everything's, there we go. Making sure everything's where it needs to be. Nope. Alright, so I'll put that in and you should be able to pull it out. It doesn't need to be turned to any specific position for it to come out. It should just work its way out. I like having the key in so that the wafers don't go flying everywhere when you pull it out. And you'll notice this key was probably working really well, but we'll notice this wafer right here is poking out the top. This wafer right here is poking out the bottom. These two, looks like they broke probably around the same time then. So let's go ahead and pull those out and inspect those real quick, so you kind of know what you're talking about. We'll pull this one out. This is what I meant by split wafer. They are, it's not a solid wafer like it is in the back here. There is a split right up the middle. Where is my tweezers? They are a little difficult to navigate out of there. This is possibly the worst key system ever, and Honda used it for like almost 30 years now. I think they just came out with something new, and I haven't taken one apart because it's all 2023s and 2024s, and obviously they're not having problems yet, so nobody's bringing them into the shop to be repinned. There we go. Okay, set that one off to the side. Let's pop this one back in again and remind ourselves which ones are jacked. The other one disappeared. Okay, I think it was this one right here. That one might be on its way out then, so we'll go ahead and pull that one out. Again, I do want you to notice, like I mentioned earlier, this one here is populated in this particular ignition. This one's not. It is just full of crap. So we'll set that down right there on the L side. I just want to record everything that I need to record, so that I can kind of take notes and try and figure out the logic behind some of this, because not a lot of it is known, despite the amount we have to work on them and why. And then the last wafer, you'll see that's just one. That is a full wafer right there. And we'll set this down in bin F right there. Beautiful. And we need to figure out what this is. So let's wipe off some gunk. I don't know how well this is going to show up on camera, but bring it up. You'll notice there is a 2x or an X2 on there. That X2 tells us that this last wafer, the full wafer, is going to be 2. Beautiful, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Let's take a look at this versus, and then, oh, you know what? Let's clean up our workspace here a little bit. We'll set that off to the side, move this out of the way, move this over here. This needs to sit with this here. Housing can sit over here, and yeah. And actually, since we're here, let's go ahead and put E back together just so we're not risking losing parts, because I have lost that spring before, and that's not something you want to be losing. If you're looking for parts to hold on to when you junk stuff, that is definitely one of them. This roll pin's trying to slide out, and that would probably be another one. Not a roll pin, but anywho, I'm sorry, I've been doing most of that off camera. We're going to put that spring in there. This little slidey bit's got a holder right there. That's the technical term. You can tell I'm a professional because I use the technical terms like slidey bit and clippy thing. There we go. The housing's back together. We'll set that off to the side. Throw that out. Nice that I broke one of those already. I'm going to have to figure out where I can get more of them. Allen key. So set that over there. Set this over here. And let's take a closer look at this thing here just so we can write it in. Just like the full wafers, split wafers. Oh, I'm in my light. There we go. There we go. You can see X1. Set that off to the side, and let's write that down on our paper. Remember, we want to not just understand or be able to pin one up. We want to understand why it's pinned up the way it is. You could guess and check this whole thing. That's what I did for ages. I did some asking and learned how to actually figure it out. And it's a lot better because these things are a pain to guess and check. You'll also notice this thing is absolutely covered in gunk and grime. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to knock out the wafers out of the bottom. I did hit record. Okay, sorry. I always get a little freaked out. Again, this is just the bottom side of the wafers getting caught in there. You'll experience this when you're pulling them out. You'll experience issues when you're coming back in. This wafer's actually got some sheared bits on it, like pieces of flecks of metal that are kind of loose. So oh yeah, this is the broken one. So that's not surprising. Just kind of jiggle it around, try and lever it out of the way. Gotta put it back in, you gotta put it back in. Almost. I'm not trying to salvage these, so I'm not too worried. We're gonna get a little rough with this one. Yes, it will slide right out. It should be able to. However, it doesn't want to, and I don't particularly care to mess with it. You will never, just in case you're wondering, do not just replace the broken ones. If these ones broke, there's another one getting ready to break right. You're gonna get warranty calls. You're gonna hate your life. You're gonna wish you were smarter about this. Always, always, always. If you're doing a ignition, replace all the wafers. If you're not charging enough to replace all the wafers, change your prices, man. Yeah. No, never put split wafers back in or reuse them. All right, next, this thing is obviously very greasy. I got that pocket there full of stuff. There's springs in there. Sometimes they come out, sometimes they don't. The ones that come out, replace. The ones that don't, I'm not too worried about springs specifically. Wafers, absolutely. Springs, not so much. Replace every single one that comes out, but I'm not going to sit here and pull them all out. And somebody can tell you otherwise, but we're going to clean this out real quick. So grab a can of the good stuff, and we're just going to spray this off. The nice part about Houdini is it's also a degreaser. I got a trash can over here. Can't see it, it's off camera. And I'm just going to spray all the goop off it. I'm going to destroy the ozone layer. Let's see here. What am I forgetting? All right, we're going to take this right here. This is specifically designed so that we can take this and one at a time put the wafers in, because it rotates which side you're on. And it is a real pain because you have to hold the wafers into place with your fingers, otherwise this thing will save you a lot of pain. I wish I could remember the name of the video I stole the idea from. It's going to be on the Thingiverse page, and then I will also add it to just a bunch of links I feel like I'm going to have to put in the comments. Check out the pinned comment. All right, put that in there. Remember, that was the 2. We're going to start with the 2 wafer. A lot of time it ends up looking like 2. The last one I did was a 1, so I'm still trying to figure out the logic behind that. If you do know, please let me know. That's the easy one. So we snap that one into place. These ones have to be from the reverse side. Boom. Nice part about this is no matter which way it's rotated, this stays constant, because this is your A side, this is your B side here. A side, and I flip that over. That's still the A side. B side, flip it over, still the B side. Otherwise your key would only work one way. So that makes this particularly nice. We've got our big wafer in there. We'll go back a little bit. 2 spots, no springs in both of those, so I'm going to grab one of these new springs that I just put out. There we go. Shake them loose. And then we're going to go 3. I hope that's clear in the camera. 3 and 1. So we'll grab our 3 first. I can just grab these with my fingers. 3. You can also double check to make sure that everything's labeled correctly. These ASP boxes can get jumbled up. Just make sure you've pushed the back of the wafer. If you're trying to just push it straight down, it's actually getting caught in the center here. You got to make sure that it is rotated like this, and that spot right there is sitting on top of the spring. So push it out, push her down. If you need to, take your tweezers, grab it, and put it into place. You can rotate it now at this point, and it'll sit just like that. Now we can put our 1 in. So again, this is made to sit just like this. We can look at this, and it's going to line up exactly with what we had. So we get that. I need our one wafer. There we go. All right, get those two to sit down. Just use your finger for that. Get your fingernail in there. If they need to be readjusted so they're sitting properly, take care of that. But then after that, you see they're sitting like that. They're being held in by the underside. I really, really love this thing. If you do not have one and you have a 3D printer, great. If you don't, I mean, just grab some vinyl tubing from the store. Make one of these things. Like I said, it's not a complicated thing to make, but you will love being able to use this. Set it in like that. Next cut's going to be 1 and 1, so we'll grab a couple of ones. There we go. There we go. All right, spin it around again. So we got the remaining 3 spots. Cut 2, cut 1, and cut 0. I hope my baseball cap's not getting in the frame there. That would be annoying, or at least in the way. So our next one is going to be this. So we got a 3 on the side A and a 4 on side B. It's a little windy. Sometimes the door moves and I think, oh, somebody's in the shop. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. Alright, drop some springs in there. And we're gonna go 3. Watch, this is the time I goof up, pinning up. But again, that's life, you know. If you see me make mistakes, then you'll know how to deal with your mistakes, and that's good. On the other ignition, I wish I had recorded it, but I was having issues getting the key to turn once I had put everything back together, and it turns out I just didn't know what I was doing, which is a super common mistake. I'll show you how to avoid that, just so you don't have the same issues I was having. There we go. Break a couple of these springs apart. Come on now. Keep this kit well stocked. Actually, the first interruption to this was somebody was going to bring in a door lock. So I had an ignition earlier, this ignition now, and now somebody's going to bring in a door lock for a pilot. So all that being said, very, very busy day for automotive. Way more busy than it normally is, but that's all right. Like I said, these are good money, and it's not crazy difficult work. And these things are always finicky. So while it is annoying at times, if I'm going to be stuck in the shop anyway doing nothing, I would rather be stuck in the shop doing Honda ignitions. All right, so this one, you could leave these blank if you wanted. Just for the sake of this, since we already checked and it was a 1, we're going to go ahead and grab this, drop it in, and we're going to mark our 1. Remember, this one was left empty and just full of gunk. There we go. And as I discover more about why things are pinned up the way they are, I will make addendums. Uh-oh. Alright, this thing is full of gunk now and will not let me put one in. Alright, that's fine. I want my spring back though. These things aren't cheap. Nothing's cheap anymore, but for just such a little spring, I'd rather not. Alright, let's put that back in the kit. Alright, let's set that off to the side. Set that off to the side. Moment of truth now. Alright, let's take our key, set it in the front. It's not going to let the key go in until the pins start showing. You might want to leave a finger over the pins as you expose them so that they don't go flying out into the stratosphere. Just keep your fingers over top. Alright, we're all the way in. And you can see Yeah, there's some high spots a little bit, but that's not going to stop an ignition. If anything's off, check your notes, run back to the key machine. Make sure that everything's pinned up right. You might have got something backwards. By the time we're all said and done, this thing should sit just like this. Oh, do I have this backwards? No, I do not. Should sit just like this. It'll turn like this, turn back. If it's turning freely once it's put in, then you're in good shape. We grab this now, our white lithium grease, and we're just going to spray it over the top and on the sides. Like I said, if you want to scoop or use the little container, the little packet that comes with new ignitions, you're more than welcome to. There's no shame in that. This stuff is just convenient. I apply a pretty generous amount there. You see it's foaming up on there. I'm not too worried about that. We'll go ahead and stick that in. All right, there we go. Now I should be able to pull the key out. Now it is time to double check this thing real quick. Go ahead and wipe that down. It'll be greasy a little bit for a while, but there we go. Sometimes it's a little tight at first. Just be patient with it. Work it a little bit so that the customer doesn't have to. Perfect. All right. Now everything's got to go back together. And now it's right, this goes on like this. You see that groove for the roll pin that holds it in place. Stick that back on here. Moment of truth, roll pin. If you remember, we do actually have that shorn off piece of screw extractor in there. So, you know, I'm just gonna get a new one. We've got a roll pin kit, there's no reason not to. Which is what I would say is if I could find a roll pin kit, I have no idea where that thing went. I found everything else. What a mystery. Okay, well, I guess that means we're gonna reuse this one, which is fine. It is an OEM roll pin, so do with that what you will. I'm going to turn it the other way, specifically so if we ever need to pull this thing out again, we can get one of those screw extractors in there. Because despite the fact that it broke, I'm going to be honest with you, that thing has done great work for a $25 tool. So there's my hammer. Just some light tapping. For somebody to tell you that this ain't the way to do it. This ain't it. But it is how I'm doing it, and shut up. There, we're just gonna set that over the top, give myself a little more mallet space. Make sure that there's good space there. I do want it poking out that backside there, so we're going to grab our good friend, Big Nail. I do genuinely have a drawer labeled Big Nail. I don't know why. There we go. Now I have a nail set again. A big nail set. Or a punch pin, I guess. Pin punch. I'm going to set this on the anvil. I have a vise right next to me here. There we go. Now, there we go. So you can see poking out there. That's going to retain that. Take this thing. Oh, okay, well. There it is. Okay. We lost that piece right there. We want to make sure we don't. If you need to, you can make one out of a piece of small nail, like a little penny nail. But you do need that piece. So we're going to set that back together. We're going to take our key. Oh, beautiful, 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 beautiful. All right, let's clean up our bench again. Set our tools off to the side that we're not using. Old towels, or paper towels. Set that off to the side, and set this off to the side now. All right, this is nice. You can save this if they want a second key. You can make a second key. I don't know if this particular customer wants one, but we'll save it. Something to note, there is a spring inside there. I almost forgot to mention that. Sometimes it'll come out with the ignition when you pull it out. Sometimes it'll stay behind. That's your spring right there. You can go in and hit all of this with Houdini. I'm not going to. but either way, it's not a bad practice to get into. Now you'll notice when I can turn it freely before I put this in, right? Oh, I can turn it freely, I promise. There we go. There we go. But once I put it in, it stops turning freely. Oh, come on now. It's got to be in the 12 o'clock position to go in. It won't turn freely anymore. What we got to do is we got to push this in until we hear a click. It'll stay retained, and we should be able to turn it. Perfect. Perfect. All right. Next, again, we've got our friend here. We're going to go back to our C divot here. Got a roll pin. I'm going to drop that into the spot we hammered out earlier. You've got to do it by pushing this in. We're going to tap it in ever so a little bit just to get it set. And then, if you don't have help, which I'm going to do for this particular one, you can grab it just like this, pushing that, make sure this is all the way in. You can look in there to see if the groove is set right. We're going to go ahead and, could use the backside? No, not backside's not going to work. We got to hold the nail, we got to hold the ignition at the same time, so we're going to do something goofy here. You're going to see some hand gymnastics. Doesn't take much to get it in. It's pretty well set. I'm just going to take it now and finish tapping it in, just to give it a couple more taps, just to make sure that nothing is, there's no chance of this popping loose. If that ever pops loose, you're in a lot of trouble. All right, making sure that's working. All right. This is not normally supposed to stay in like that. It's not bad that it does, but it's a little bit worrying. We're going to hit this with some Houdini right there. Hit that with some Houdini and we'll... Now remember, if you use Houdini on this ignition now at this point, it's going to wash out all of your grease. So be extra special careful. It will still lubricate, but I don't think Houdini lasts as long as white lithium, which is why you're wanting to put the white lithium grease inside of there. This has to last another 20 years, 25 years. All right, so next we're going to take this part right here. Remember, we didn't even unhook it here. We didn't have to. I'm going to hook that on. Oh, there we go. That did something. I heard it snap back out. Okay. Now this is sitting loose, so that'll be interesting to deal with in a moment. Remember, we only had 2 screws to begin with, and they were on the same side here. There was one here and one here. So I'm going to take our B screw here, put it in. Now, I should go out and order more of these screws, but right now I'm not going to go through the trouble of putting back together, getting extra parts for something that they're missing. I'm going to point it out to the customer and let them know what type of screws these are, and I'll find out, put them in the description as well, take a photo of that and put it in. So we've only got the 1 screw there. I'm going to take this again, want to make sure our immobilizer ring is right there, or maybe that's the ring. Oh man, I don't rightly know. I should really pay more attention to these things. Put this on, you'll have a screw right there, and the one we're going to put on right there. I don't know why these screws are missing. Maybe the folks who they took this off and brought it into us. We don't typically work on the cars themselves, just for liability reasons, because I don't want to. It ain't worth thousands of bucks for $150 worth of job. I'm no auto mechanic, so no siree. All right. Flip her over, make sure that's working. Work it a little bit. Alrighty. And there you go. I'm going to save these, set them off to the side, because I do want to do some more study to figure out what's going on with this wafer and this wafer right here. Your last cut, your 5 cut, does not correspond with this. Your 6 cut does not seem to correspond with this either. So I'm going to try and figure out the logic behind this some other time after I've done a couple more of these, so I have a little bit of notes to study over. Let's see here. Alrighty, but other than that, this is all done. So, if you got any questions, there will be more tools in the description, including a roll pin kit, just so you've got the roll pins you need. Typically, if you're going to get a new one, you'll cut it down with a pair of wire cutters if you're a psychopath like me, or if you've got a cheap pair, or you'll use a bolt cutters if you've got all of the screws in your head put together. I'll figure out where to get some more of these screws as well. And I think there's an empty pocket in the Honda kit itself that I will probably put those in. Yeah, there's a spot for miscellaneous spares, so maybe not miscellaneous. I'm not putting random pins in there. It'll look like I'm crazy. Alrighty, but yeah, that's exactly how this works. And this will work for most Honda ignitions. So anything you need, any questions like that, don't be afraid to ask. But yeah, that's the basics of how to do this.